nice. I want to thank Asha and Sandeep for introducing Dr. Hatankar from Pune. And, I'm really happy to inform you that, Dr. Vijay Hatankar will be giving talk on hypertension, which is, kind of many people are interested in this area and, have some real, issues and questions about it. So, with all that, Dr. Vijay, if you can start, and towards the end, if you have any questions, you can put them in chat box. And also, I had provided a spreadsheet with the to enter the questions, and we'll talk about the questions after the session. Okay, not in between. So go ahead, Vijay.
Thank you, sir. Om Param Shraddheya Bhagwan Shri Dhanvantaraya Namaha. As we all know that God Dhanvantari is the god of medicine, and I pray to God Dhanvantari to bless you all with all the healthy longevity. I welcome you all to the world of advanced scientific knowledge of Ayurveda. As at the inset, let me thank Sabnis sir, Asha madam, and Sandeep sir for allowing me to place my thoughts on hypertension and Ayurveda. The subject is very interesting for me, as hypertension was my MD thesis subject. So managing hypertension with scientific Ayurveda is our today's title. So while saying managing, I will say, let us be thinking of understanding hypertension with scientific Ayurveda. As managing is out of the scope of such a small time period, but I can give the guidelines which can make you understand what exactly hypertension is and how to tackle with it. The word manage itself has man's age. That is we always keep on aging, and hypertension is such a thing which leads us to grow elder or older quickly. So while thinking of the subject, the title has 4 words. The first word is Ayurveda. The second is a combination of 2 words, that is scientific Ayurveda, which is a little bit a newer coining of words. The third word is hypertension, and somewhere there it is that whether we can get freedom from medicines, freedom from modern medicines, or freedom from any medicines. The final, the hidden meaning of the freedom from medicines is the basic aim what Ayurveda aims for every individual. That is the speciality of Ayurveda, that Ayurveda believes in giving freedom from medicines. So I was very much confused how to go with the subject, like directly going to hypertension or giving a better idea about Ayurveda, what I have perceived with 25 years of experience. So let me, you are all are scholars, and everybody, you all know what Ayurveda is. But I would like to give the brief idea what exactly Ayurveda is, that as I have understood, that we have a very superficial understanding of Ayurveda. So what is Ayurveda? If I ask somebody what is Ayurveda, so mostly people say that it is herbal medicine. That is the first thing everybody knows about Ayurveda, that it is a herbal medicine, but it was blamed for being a heavy metal medicine in recent times. That is also a understanding of modern business-minded people who try to blame Ayurveda for heavy metals. The second assumption is it is a traditional medicine. It is a tradition just going on. tradition we sometimes keep as a boj on us, but that is the understanding that Ayurveda is traditional medicine. Some people say, when I ask my patients that what is Ayurveda, what do you understand with Ayurveda? They say it is just a massage. That way, Ayurveda has been put in front of the whole world like it is a massage therapy. Or sometimes it is a pulse reading only. Pulse reading is certainly a very good tool to understand a patient. But the basic texts of Ayurveda, they don't mention pulse reading as the basic science to understand a patient. They give a very clinical picture of every condition. So pulse reading is not the only pulse reading is not Ayurveda. Some say it is panchakarma. They have experienced some panchakarma, and some say it is a treatment because they have taken some treatment. Friends, the word Ayurveda has Ayu word in it, that is life. And the second word is Veda, that is eternal sustainable knowledge or science or a wisdom, which is going on since ages and it is never ending. So you all must be aware of 4 Vedas. Ayurveda is a subtype of Atharva Veda. So Ayurveda is the science of eternal sustainable knowledge or wisdom, which is still practical. Ayurveda is a practical Veda, I can say. Nowadays, for every lay person to a scholar, Ayurveda is a practically available Veda to be used in everyday life for everything, including medicines and toothbrush and toothpaste. So Ayu means age or the duration of life. And it starts with birth. And the second point is, the last point, that is death. So from birth to death is our Ayu, is the measurement of Ayu, is the measurement of age. So we all know that Ayurveda says, Hita hitam sukham dukkham ayu tasya hita hitam manam cha tachya yatroktam Ayurveda sauchate. What is Ayurveda? Ayurveda is understanding of one's age. So when somebody comes to me as at the age of 40, I understand his age after checking him, after having analyzing him clinically. So Ayu means the definition of age. We start from birth to death, and an Ayurvedic scholar shall be able to understand the exact age of the patient, what is going on in his body. Whether he is 40, but he's at the age of 55, or whether he is 40 and at the age of 20. So this is the definition given in Vedas, that Ayurveda gives the understanding of age. So what happens at birth? We get a body, senses, mind, and the supreme soul, we call it Ansha of the soul, greatest soul. That is our human soul, Jivatma. And this life is going on. The every aim of our life, as I understood while practicing Ayurveda, is healthy longevity. Whatever we do, whether we sleep at a proper time and get up at proper time, or whatever we do, whatever we eat, whatever work we do, everything is aimed towards healthy longevity. So Ayurveda is there for prevention and cure, but this is the understanding of age. Ideally speaking, the age starts 9 months before our birth, and that is when we are at a fetal stage. So Ayurveda advises some treatment for pregnant woman and the fetus during this 9 months period. And also says that when what was the material for this fetus? There was a sperm and an ovum, which also needs to be treated before going for conception. So according to Ayurveda, the life starts from the very basic material of the life form, that is sperm and ovum. And those treatments in Ayurveda lead to elimination of heredity factors and genetic factors which are responsible for various diseases in our life, including hypertension. So we already have our body, mind, and sense and soul, but those who are about still to come in life, they need a proper management from the very basic level of fertilization. So the scope of Ayurveda starts from giving treatments before our birth. So Ayurveda says whatever Ayurveda describes is Dirgham Jivitiyam Adhyayam Vyakhyasamaha. It means whatever Ayurveda has explained, it is for the Dirgha Jivan, that is healthy longevity. And the healthy longevity is our aim for everything as I explained. So Ayurveda gives knowledge, a good wisdom, treatment and therapies. It helps in understanding our body, mind and soul also, and gives guidelines for that. And basically Ayurveda is an education. When I say freedom from medicines, that itself means that we educate the people, we educate a patient in such a way that he will be able to take his or her care without need of any Ayurveda specialist. So Ayurveda is more of education, so as to keep one healthy enough throughout life, so as to have a longer healthy life and a happy life. So these are the basic aims. So there is another meaning to Ayurveda. This may be, I wish I give you something new while explaining this. Aim and object of Ayurveda is to strengthen and purify one's body to get prepared for a long, happy, healthy life. This is the very basic aim of Ayurveda, which I explained. But Ayurveda also gives freedom from disease and medicines as well, so as to lead to yoga and adhyatma, and ultimately to attain enlightenment. So what is Ayurveda? The Ayurveda is the base for body. Ayurveda is the base for preparing our human body, and yoga is the prayer ritual or a service for mind. And spirituality is the way to release and salvation. So it is for soul. So these are the, culturally speaking, India's or the Vedic culture has developed 3 sciences which are useful to attain the ultimate goal of one's life, knowingly or unknowingly. So before going to spirituality, we should go to yoga. Before going to yoga, we should opt for Ayurveda. We should opt for Ayurveda's basic guidance to purify our body first. So first we have to purify our body, then mind, and then ultimately soul. So while studying all these things and while reading all the scriptures and texts, I understood that the era in which I am living is the era of science. And when I start my practice, when I was practicing modern medicine initially. It's a practice here that most of the BMS people, they learn Ayurveda and they go to, after getting the degree, they practice modern medicine. I had also done the same. I started practicing modern medicine initially, but with some turn in my life, I started using herbal medicines in my modern medicine practice. And ultimately, when I was MD, I started practicing in Ayurveda. So when I started my practice, my colleagues and my fellow doctors, they laughed at me because 25 years back, there was no such an understanding as of now about Ayurveda. There was no such attraction about Ayurveda when I started practicing. So at that time, I thought the development of Ayurveda knowledge has been from the divine knowledge by Lord Brahma. as has been explained in Ayurveda text. There is Charak Samhita, which has the word chara, that means moving away, as we have the word car. Car is also the way, the object which can move. Chara means charana, or our feet, for search of knowledge. So Charak Samhita was developed by searching all the details regarding basic principles of Ayurveda explained by Lord Brahma. Then comes Shushrut Samhita, which has the word Shruta, means to listen. The knowledge developed by Charak Samhita, Charakacharya, has been developed by Sushrut after listening to it. And then comes Vagbhata. So these three people, or the three groups of people, they developed Ayurveda by searching, listening, and Vagbhata by Vacha. Vacha means our sound, human voice. So by reciting and memorizing all the text of the divine knowledge. But as now this is the era of science, so I thought it is necessary to develop a Vigyan Samhita, Charak Samhita, Sushrut Samhita, Vagbhat Samhita, and a Vigyan Samhita. So application of various sciences is necessary. Various available sciences is necessary, and as I thought that it is, let us think using modern science and Ayurveda together. So this is the word Ayurveda, scientific Ayurveda come in formation. So what is Ayurveda science? Scientific Ayurveda is application of available modern sciences of physics, chemistry, biology, electronics, information technology, etc. for easy interpretation of mankind's ancient time-tested divine knowledge of Ayurveda. So we are just, while getting into the understanding of hypertension and managing hypertension, I just give this is a very brief, I can talk more on this, but I just give a brief idea about scientific. Scientific Ayurveda gives a lot of advantages. It gives a microscopic understanding of a person. It is useful to develop evidence-based Ayurveda, which has a worldwide acceptability, because Ayurveda has been blamed for not being scientific. And the scientific Ayurveda word itself gives the idea that this is something different. This is something relevant to the modern era. It gives accuracy of diagnosis, as it was very difficult when I was learning Ayurveda, that people used to just read pulse and give diagnosis. That is also super knowledge or a superior achievement after achievement of giving diagnosis after reading pulse. But scientific Ayurveda gives accuracy of diagnosis to a very newer practitioner also. This early practical vision to read ancient texts. There are very few advantages, like it is possible to develop a time-bound, result-oriented treatment schedule for individual with a predefined therapy thinking, so as to make the things standardized and safe, more safe, with pure herbal preparations. I believe in pure herbal preparations. As the blame came to as heavy metal treatment, I believe in giving pure herbal preparations which are always safe. And scientific Ayurveda certainly gives us a clear vision to clear the confusion about Ayurveda and its true application. And ultimately, finally, scientific Ayurveda, or that is the basic Ayurveda, gives us freedom from medicines. So just another slide of scientific Ayurveda. Scientific Ayurveda understands birth, which after birth, there is a point at the age of 15, there is beginning of hormones. After 10 years, in Hindi or Marathi, we all are maybe aware of that. For the age 15, we call it is a boy, a Kumar, and a girl, Kumari. So the beginning of hormones brings a different life. At the age of 25, we call it Tarun or Taruni. At 35, we call them proud. And at 45, age 45 is very significant, as there starts declination in the quality of hormones. And hence, there are the person gets diseases mostly after 45, age 45. Though this may have been shifted to 35 nowadays because of the stress levels we get. On an average, 45 is the age when we start getting some diseases like hypertension, diabetes, heart, kidney diseases, cancers, etc., and which ultimately leads to death. So 45 is the age from where the decline starts. Ayurveda believes that this should not happen. The hormones should not decline. And 55, 65, and 75, we should be as healthy, as youthful when the way we were in our 35s and 40s. And ultimately, as I said, the knowledge of Ayurveda goes for enlightenment if we advocate yoga and adhyatma. The scope of scientific Ayurveda, as I explained, that it starts from much before our birth, and everybody should, while going for conception, should take Rasayan and Vajikaran, and so as to after birth, Ayurveda lifestyle and healing methods are very important. Ayurveda is not just medicine, it's not just lifestyle, it's a manual which we get at birth. It's a manual, the same way we get a manual of any electronic device, how to operate it, how to use it, how to troubleshoot it. The same way Ayurveda is the manual available for us from birth. So the stress and the declining hormonal conditions, if neglected, they lead to serious consequences which damage various body conditions and life irreparably. And one such important disease condition is hypertension. The word itself has two words, hyper and tension. Hyper means elevated, more, exaggerated, excess. And tension itself gives the idea that it is the tension in our body, in the human body, tension outside human body, and tension inside human body. When it matches, it gets aggravated. It's a simple thing. The same qualities lead to the same product. So tension outside human body leads to tension inside human body. So hypertension, I laughingly say that we say hi to our personal tension. It is a hi to our individual tension. So what is hypertension? You all are scholars and you must have read many things about hypertension. Blood pressure is the force exerted by circulating blood against the walls of our body arteries. So arteries are the main pipes which bear all the pressure given by heart during a systole. Means when the heart constricts, the heart creates a pressure, and that pressure is withstood by aorta, and aorta gives all the circulation to first to right hand, then to brain, and then to left hand, and to the whole body. Every cell gets the blood, perfusion of blood, which carries oxygen and nutrients. And this pressure is very vital, just as we water our garden by a pipe. The pipes are very important, as well as the pump is also very important. Heart is the pump which pumps the blood in our arteries, and the pressure created by that flowing of blood on the arteries is blood pressure. And simply speaking, hypertension is when our blood pressure is too high. So when pumps beats more effectively, more roughly, more randomly, more with some pathology, pump of heart and the blood vessels, they get some damage. And hence, people say hypertension is not a disease. It is not a so serious thing, but it's not true. We have to take care of hypertension so that our cardiovascular system remains as it is, as patient as it has to be. So while I'm saying patient, that doesn't mean that that system has to have some disease. To most of my patients, I say that I'm not treating patients. Actually, I am treating impatients. So that's just a other comment I gave. But patience in the body or in mind and soul is that all the points will come in while discussing the few next slides. So high blood pressure is very famous as a silent killer. Elevation of blood pressure has to be taken care of cautiously. So just don't think that I have seen some videos on YouTube. They say that it's not a disease or it's not to be taken so seriously. So hypertension, in this slide, we say the value of 195/104. It is the systolic pressure is 195 and diastolic is 104. So this is very high blood pressure. Hypertension or elevated blood pressure, a very serious medical condition which significantly increases the risk of heart, brain, kidney, eyes, and some other diseases, including the risk in pregnancy. So WHO says, World Health Organization says, these 2 points I have taken from WHO's website, that fewer than 1 in 5 people with hypertension have the problem under control. So despite having all the scientific revelations, all the scientific development, 4 out of 5 people of hypertension don't have their problem under control. So only medicines are not sufficient in controlling hypertension. Hypertension is a major cause of premature deaths worldwide, as has been told by WHO, and hence it is a serious issue. So, but we should not get frightened after reading these things. The important factors in hypertension, we all know that heredity plays a major role. There are some gene groups in our body which lead to hypertension. Suddenly a lady of, say, age 30 or 35 suddenly develops hypertension, mostly when they have some heredity or genetic factor involved. The second important factor is obesity. All these factors, we should give a serious thought to this. The third factor is stress. I call it stupidity. The heredity, obesity, and the stress, which is actually a stupidity. It's just a laughing comment. The sensitivity of mind and reactivity of mind is also important factor while getting hypertension. Sedentary lifestyle, overactive lifestyle, alcohol, excess use of alcohol, smoking, tobacco chewing, and excess salt, spices, and these are the conditions, these are the important factors while considering hypertension. You'll be surprised to know that another factor which has to be given due importance is medicine. Modern medicine, the NSAIDs means non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, that is sort of Brufen or diclofenac sodium. These are the medicines which aggravate blood pressure. Acetaminophen, that is simple paracetamol, if taken excessively, can lead to hypertension. Nasal decongestants. These nasal decongestants, they lead to hypertension. And the flu medicines, hormonal birth control pills, antidepressant drugs, etc. So these conditions, these medicines mostly have their effects on kidney. The kidney gets diseased and then starts the blood pressure. So it is better we avoid the medicines which are available over the counter and try to learn something which will be useful for our individual health, the symptomatic illnesses, so which we can get from Ayurveda, yoga, and meditation. So kidney is the ultimate organ which is damaged by medicines. So diseases of adrenal glands also are important. Diabetes is there is a, we can say, there is a pandemic of diabetes. India was supposed to be, is a capital of diabetes, as diabetes is very much increasing, and endocrine diseases. I hope that I wish that you are understanding my points. If any query, we can discuss later. Cardiovascular diseases are the factors we have to think. Hypertension is a prodromal symptom or a sign. Actually, it's a sign. When we go to doctor or when we go to an Ayurvedic physician, they check our BP and they tell us that you have a blood pressure. So there is no way in modern medicine to think that hypertension is a pre-sign or pre-symptom of a disease pathology which is going on in our body. Ayurveda has this thinking that hypertension, having high blood pressure, is a prodromal symptom of some diseases. We all know that transient ischemic attack, that means a temporary paralysis or a proper paralysis, and also of bleeding disorders. So raised blood pressure in some individuals can lead to some bleeding disorders. The sign and symptoms are, high blood pressure is also a sign of symptom of renal disease, that means kidney disease. There is a certain cardiac ailment because of aging. Then we can call hypertension, the high blood pressure, as a disease entity in itself. So when there is some cardiac element, the cardiac element, because of aging mostly, and associated high blood pressure, is a disease entity in itself and has to be treated properly. And there is another vascular element, that is atherosclerosis, that is getting depositions on the inner lining of our blood vessels, which leads to hypertension, and that is also a disease entity. Peripheral vascular resistance plays a vital role in giving us our reading higher. So peripheral vascular resistance, this is we can understand that we have our periphery, that our extremities, the blood vessels in our extremities. Vascular means blood vessels, and resistance means they resist the pressure put by heart, and the BP goes up. Diagnosis is not in a single sitting, it is in consecutive readings, supported with hereditary factors, and also necessary to have identified some secondary causes. Investigations are renal function tests, lipid profile. We all are aware of all these investigations. They are important for me, even being Ayurvedic physician, to diagnose a person's hypertensive condition. So this is what scientific Ayurveda plays a role, that scientific Ayurveda gives me the understanding of interpreting these investigations with Ayurvedic principles so as to give a better justice to my patient. 2D echocardiography, stress test, all these are the tests necessary. So there are types of hypertension, there is primary hypertension and essential hypertension. Primary essential hypertension, that means there is, modern medicine says there is no cause for this type of hypertension. Essential hypertension is supposed to be essential. It is supposed to be without any cause, obvious cause. But according to Ayurveda, there is nothing idiopathic in this world. According to Ayurveda, everything has some reason behind it. There is always a karya karana mimamsa of every individual's condition. Modern medicine has many diseases which has idiopathic etiology, idiopathic causative factors. But Ayurveda has a way of analyzing every individual's causative factors so as to give a better treatment. There are subtypes: mild, moderate, and malignant. Malignant hypertension is what? Above 180 and 100. I wish you are aware of the values of blood pressure, that how it is counted. When heart pumps, it is systole, and when heart rests, it is diastole. The systolic blood pressure is to be 120, and diastolic blood pressure has to be 80. So 120, it is 80. 120/80 is the normal blood pressure. It can be below those levels, but a BP, blood pressure, according to my experience, BP of 140/90 is higher. 140 and 86 is not that, has to be that, that is not that serious. So Ayurveda diagnose disease types in hypertension. Like there is a condition, Pitta-Vrut Vat. This was the subject of my thesis, Pitta-Vrut Vat. It is a very complicated thesis, complicated concept. I got asthma, and I didn't got asthma. I got a subject while studying my MD first year, that asthma and Ayurvedic medicine. But I decided to change it to Pitta-Vrut Vat. And Pitta-Vrut Vat is very close to hypertension. Ayurvedic text has other terminology while explaining all the conditions. That doesn't mean that hypertension is the disease of new era. Hypertension was there since ages and has been explained by Ayurveda in detail. Rakta Pitta is a disease which has blood diathesis or blood bleeding tendencies. And the third disease, that is called Pandu. You may be aware of Pandu Raja of Mahabharata, who got Pandu disease. So this Pandu is a condition which is related with kidney disease. And kidney and blood pressure go hand in hand. Kidney and blood pressure, high blood pressure go hand in hand. So kidney health is very important for controlling hypertension. So do ancient Ayurveda texts describe hypertension? Pressure is what? Pressure is a continuous physical force exerted on against any object by something in contact with it. So as we have discussed, this is a pulse, this is nadi, and that arrow shows that the pressure on that nadi, on that pulse, or on arteries applied because of the force created by heart is blood pressure. The pressure of flowing blood exerted on blood vessels by pumping external. Measuring blood pressure is an advanced method of pulse reading, as I believe. We all know that Nadi Pariksha is there. It's a very expertise thing to have attained to gain this knowledge of Nadi Pariksha. But modern science has brought the easy instrument of sphygmomanometer, or a blood pressure digital blood pressure instrument, that everybody at home is able to do his or her Nadi Pariksha, that is pulse reading, quite easily. The difference in millimeters or difference in the reading by 2 or 1 millimeter also gives some idea about the vascular tension in the body. So measuring blood pressure for me is an advanced method of pulse reading. This is a different thing I expect. Ayurveda gives these quotations that these are in Sanskrit. Deham tantrayate samyak sthaneshu avyahataha charan. Vayus tantra yantradharaha. Vayurayu balam vayu vayudhata shririnam vayu vishwam idam sarvam prabhu vayushcha kirtita. Ayurveda explains vayu, that is vata dosh. I wish you all are aware of Ayurvedic explanation of, not exactly Ayurvedic explanation, but at least some idea about vata, pitta and kapha doshas. Of that, vata dosha is the predominant dosha or humor which controls all the physiology of our body. Ayurveda says, pittam pangu. Pangu means disabled. Pittam pangu, kapha pangu. Pangavo maladhatava. That all the other things like pitta, the acids in our body, kapha, the mucus in our body, and other waste material or the body building materials like dhatu materials, they all are disabled if vayu is not functioning properly. Pittam pangu mala kapha pangu pangavo maladhatavaha vayuna yatra niyante. Vayu controls all these body matters. Tatra varshati mein, and then they are able to function. So the humor vata is responsible for all the physiology, especially of movement and power. So blood pressure is measuring microcardiovascular neuropathic harmony in the body physiology associated with vata humor. So whenever I check blood pressure, I just don't check as a blood pressure. Scientific Ayurveda makes me understand the microcardiovascular neuropathic, even neuropathic harmony, the condition of this harmony in body physiology associated with vata humor. So as I explained, Nadi Pariksha, that line was about Nadi Pariksha. So Ayurveda explains there are 5 types of vata dosh. In hypertension, we are going to see the management and understanding of hypertension. But before understanding, I just want to explain the types of vata dosha in detail or at some detail, so that you everybody at least understand that Ayurveda is not a superficial, not a science, is not just a outdated science. It has all the scientific basis and has been ignored just because of our ignorance of Sanskrit language, our ignorant understanding of Sanskrit language. Sanskrit language gives every scientific detail which is available in today's scientific era. So there are 5 types of vata dosha. Vata dosha is not only gas. It is not the stomach gas, or it is not just the abdominal gas, which we call flatus or the abdominal distension. That is not vata dosha. Vata is, Ayurveda says, pranodano samanakhya vyanapanaha sapanchada. It means there are 5 types of vata. First is pranavayu. The second is udanavayu. Third is vyanavayu, samanavayu, and apanavayu. These 5 types we always recite when we do the puja, when we do Satyanarayan puja at our households. Pranaya swaha, udanaya swaha, vyanaya swaha, samanaya swaha, apanaya swaha. We have understood this. These are the old texts which explain all these vayu types. What is the explanation of this pranavayu? Pranavayu is the vayu which resides in our brain. Udanavayu is the vayu. So understanding vayu is not that easy, or not that the scope of 5 minutes of explanation. But I am trying to making this conversation just to make everybody understand that Ayurveda has a very detailed thinking about circulation. And this was the subject of my MD thesis, that prana, udan, vyan, they reside in chest, in lungs and heart. And samanvayu samanvayu resides at abdomen, near our digestive fire. And apanvayu resides at our excretory organs. So this whole body has a core and extremities. So this prana, van, udan, apan, and saman, they work in coordination to keep our inner pressures. Vayu is nothing but the pressure. I always say that this body is a compartment which is made up of, this body is made up of just of some material, and air has been pumped in it, air has been pushed in it and packed, and hence just like a balloon is able to move in air, we are able to move our body, our whole system, because of this vayu. This is the there is more to understanding of this vata prakaras, but it is not the subject of this discussion. The relation of 5 vayu types with blood pressure. So prana is what? Forward motion. Whenever a heart pumps blood into aorta, in the blood vessels, in the arteries, the motion, forward motion, which is given by heart, is the function of prana. Prana means life. We can't live without prana. So every cell needs the nutrients and oxygen. Prana is the vayu which gives the forward motion. The other vayu prakaras, they have word descriptions, like udan is expression, vyan is circulation, saman is related with digestion and metabolism, and apan with excretion. So normal unabated functioning of these 5 types of vata doshas is responsible for normal blood pressure. Pathogenesis of hypertension according to Ayurveda. Positive factors: alcohol, smoking, overeating, stress, insufficient sleep, aging, they lead to effects like weight gain, expansion of blood volume. All the pathogenesis will make us understand how a simple trick can control blood pressure, which is coming in our next slides. I have a video which shows a very simple trick can control blood pressure, at least for time being. So weight gain is not reversible immediately. It needs some efforts to reverse the weight gain. But expansion of blood volume, expansion of blood volume is very much possible to get controlled or to get diverted in some other organ, in other core, so as to reduce our blood pressure immediately. Thickening of blood vessels is, though it's not immediately reversible to reduce blood pressure, but thickening of blood vessels can be relieved by doing some vasodilatation with some good techniques. So increased lung and cardiac load, the effect of causative factors like alcohol, smoking, etc., they increase lung load on these 2 important organs, that is heart and lung. Causative factors lead to insomnia, loss of good sleep, and psychological symptoms of irritation. Pathogenesis of hypertension leads to aggravation or vitiation of various factors that includes vata dosh, muscle sympathetic nerve analysis, pitta dosh, expansion of blood volume. These are the doshas responsible for all these factors. Rakta dosh is blood impurities, Meda dhatu is obesity and dyslipidemia. Lipids play a major role in controlling, lipids play a major role for as the pathogenesis of hypertension. Cholesterol, high triglycerides levels because of our overeating and stress levels lead to hypertension. And there are certainly manas doshas which result in insomnia and mental irritability, lead to hypertension. The symptoms include many videos or many scholars say that hypertension is a silent killer. There are no symptoms of hypertension, but I have seen patients, those who don't have symptoms of hypertension, they have adjusted their body to not to get symptoms. Though the blood pressure is increased in the body doesn't show any symptom because the body gets accustomed or adjusted to hypertension. So there are many symptoms like giddiness, headaches, breathlessness, nausea, acidity, heartburn, nasal bleeding, pedal edema, excessive menstrual flow or bleeding. These are the symptoms which can suggest us that there is a possibility of associated hypertension. Especially I have seen people having heartburn. Burn in the heart is actually in the esophagus, that the food pipe, which gives the feeling of heartburn. They get hypertension in their later life. And hematuria is a symptom. Hematuria means blood through urine. Passing of blood through urine has to be taken care of. So these symptoms has the clinical sign of raised blood pressure. Now let's come to the subject of managing hypertension. I think I am taking much time explaining all the basic things. Now let's think of managing hypertension with scientific Ayurveda. Sir, I hope I have some time.
Oh, sure. Go ahead. Don't just take your time.
Managing hypertension with scientific Ayurveda. Whenever I have patients, it's very natural to advise like what to avoid. So avoid salt. Excess salt intake is certainly responsible for hypertension, as the sodium in it leads to water retention, water and electrolyte imbalance, and the salty food has certainly have bad effects on every individual. Those with hypertension and those without hypertension shall always take care that they don't eat excess salt. Chinese sauces, not only Chinese sauces, all types of sauces and excess spices. So while saying avoid salt, sauces and spices, I mean to say that avoid all these in excess. Anything in excess leads to trouble. Deep fried food and bakery food, alcohol and smoking is also important while treating a patient of hypertension. These factors, these two things, alcohol leads to expansion of blood volume and excessive thinning of arteries, blood vessels, which can lead to bleeding disorder. But that bleeding is not necessary from nose or from urine or from during menstruation. That bleeding can be internal bleeding, and mostly in hypertension, it is seen that the bleeding happens in brain, which leads to paralysis. Smoking is also a cause which leads to impairment in lung, related with lung pathology. And there is one enzyme, there is one hormone, angiotensin, which controls our blood pressure. And the amount of angiotensin in our blood, angiotensin, it is the hormone which gives which increases tension in blood vessels. Angio means blood vessels. Angiotensin. Smoking leads to increase in angiotensin and to hypertension. Sedentary lifestyle should be avoided. Overeating should be avoided. Stress at personal level and at work has to be managed very seriously. One has to think about the grade of stress they are taking in daily life. Everyone should grade their own stress from 1 to 5, 1 being normal stress and 5 being maximum stress, and shall understand the effect of this stress on the body. I always call stress as stupidity, and so one should not be stupid enough to have a lot of stress in the life. Anger, hurry, worry, and fear, these sentiments which starts from our brain, and they have some bad effects on our whole body. It is quite, everybody knows about this. And here that yoga and meditation plays a bigger role than the medicines. Insufficient sleep has to be tackled off. Ayurveda says, Nidrayattam sukham dukkham ayu tasya nidrayattam sukham dukkham. So what Nidra is, our sukha and our dukha, that is our happiness and our pain, depends on our sleep. Everything depends on sleep, as sleep is the balance given by the nature or God Almighty to human to heal themselves every day. Every day we get some damages in our body, and they are healed during sleep. During sleep, our heart and brain, they work very rhythmically during a proper sleep, I mean. So one should always check the quality of sleep they are getting. There is a sleep analysis. There are methods of sleep analysis. They should be advocated. Managing hypertension with scientific Ayurveda is identifying the etiological factors, as I said, and we should avoid them, restrict them. Ayurveda always believe that whenever disease starts, there is formation of some toxic material in our body, and that those toxic materials have been grouped under Vata dosh, Pitta dosh, Kapha dosh, and a fourth dosh, that is Rakta dosh. So what is, just a minute, sir, I will snooze my alarm. So Vata dosh, Pitta dosh, and Kapha dosh, and Rakta dosh, these are the this is the media of our body. These four are the mediums through which everything happens in our body. There is another dimension to think about how this media works. But there's Vata dosh, Pitta dosh, Kapha dosh, and Rakta dosh. The toxins in those, to eliminate the toxins in these all factors, Panchakarma is advised. So toxins can be removed from stomach, that is by vomiting treatment, that is we call Vaman, small intestine, large intestine, nasal way, blood, stools, urine, and sweat. These are the only ways through which we excrete our toxins, which actually naturally get created in our body every day. So in stomach, we have mucus. In small intestine, we have acid. In large intestine, we have gases. Vata dosh, that is also Vata dosh. In nasal way, we have some, we give nasya that can drain out all the doshas. Blood also have some impurities which can be taken care of by bloodletting. Stools, urine, and sweat, these are the three malas, three waste products which are formed. And all this core of our body, starting from stomach to urine and sweat, these are the mechanisms by which we excrete our daily toxins. And those who don't do excrete the toxins properly, the systems which are unable to excrete body toxin properly, they'll lead to accumulation of toxic material in our body, and that has to be purified. The body has to be purified, has to be detoxified by way of Panchakarma. So Ayurveda always, for every patient, for everything, even for fever, even for after simple fever, whatever, after having viral infections, nowadays COVID-19 is very, I can say, popular in a bad way. So that the whatever whenever we get fever also, we develop some toxins which are to be eliminated immediately after fever, that is after 15 days of fever, after the 15th day of fever. But we never do that, and then we get those toxins accumulated in our body so as to get future diseases in future. There are pacifying treatments, Shaman Aushadhi Chikitsa we call, which can pacify the doshas in our body and even detoxify our body. Counseling is very important. Stress management and sleep analysis, as I said, are important factors while treating hypertension. And exercises, outdoor games are very important. As I say, as I advise to everybody, when I saw myself being 90 kg weight 15 years back, I started playing tennis, and I play tennis with my passion and have reached at good level of tennis. Yogasanas, meditation, Surya Namaskar, and sunlight, all these factors are important while managing hypertension with Ayurvedic medicines. So Ayurveda is, I always say, Ayurveda is not just medicines, but still medicines are very important, as medicines work on the root causes of diseases. And what is the root cause of disease? It is my extended part of this session, which advises, which can eliminate some light, which can eliminate with a good light on thinking freedom from medicines. While speaking medicines, it is very important to understand individual evaluation, clinical evaluation. So these are the names of some herbs I am giving, which are important for while treating hypertension. So Dhamasa is the medicine. You may not be aware of this, that this is L-Hagi mororum. The Latin name of Dhamasa is L-Hagi mororum, which is very, very useful in all the factors of hypertension, including Vata dosh, Pitta dosh, heart, blood impurities, etc. The second medicine is Gokshura. Gokshura is Gokhru, and Gokhru is effective on kidneys. The third is Ushira, that is Vaya. Simply speaking, it is a grass which we use, which Indian population use to give a good smell to water, regular water. So Dhanyaka means Dhania. Jatamausi is one medicine which is very, very useful. All these are herbs and they can be tried at home. But if you try it with advice from some proper Ayurved Tadnya, Ayurved specialist, Ayurved physician, then it will be more effective and more will be giving more better results. Kutki is one medicine. Brahmi, everybody knows, works on brain. Punarnava works on kidney. There is Ashwagandha. There is Sarpagandha. These are the gandhas we call. Ashwa means horse. Ashwagandha means the medicine which has the smell of horse or a power of horse. And Sarpagandha, which has a medicine which has power of Sarpa, that is snake. So Sarpagandha is medicine. The name itself says we should be very cautious while using it. Then I will not advise Sarpagandha to be used at home. There is another medicine is Patol. Patol is a herb which detoxifies our liver, which has the property of detoxifying liver, because liver is the seat of every disease. Liver is a company or an industry which creates all the good and bad things in our body. We call it Yakrut. Krut means preparation. Krut means preparation. The one who prepares is Krut, is Yakrut. Yakrut prepares all the things. So Patol is very important. Tagar is a medicine which is useful in our on our brain. Rason, that is lasun. And Triphala is a simple medicine. And also Gugul Kalpas are useful. So common Ayurvedic preparations I am explaining. the best medicine for to reduce the blood volume is Moti Bhasma. It is also useful on our blood vessels. Yashada Bhasma. We have always, most common population have fear about Bhasmas. The Bhasmas are not that toxic, just as what we think. We have been taught about heavy metals. These Bhasmas are the purified forms of inorganic medicines, and they have been organically treated to get assimilated in our body easily and get uh, eliminated also easily. There is a Prabhakar Vati, which I use in plenty of doses for a patient of hypertension. Brahmi Vati, we all know, Chandraprabha Vati, Vata Vidwans Ras, etc. There are so many medicines which are very useful while eliminating all the doshas, all the detox, all the toxic materials from our body, from the patient's body who has hypertension or any other disease. The Prasham Vati, or these are the just names: Saraswatarishta, Ashwagandharishta, Mahayograj Gogul, etc. But this is not the scope of this session to give all the detailed idea about all these medicines. Ultimately, Rasayan and Vajikaran Chikitsa, the Rasayan treatment and Vajikaran treatment are very special forms of Ayurvedic treatment for an individual to lead to regaining of the youthfulness, and youthfulness means hormones, and proper hormone means a very healthy, relaxed body. So Rasayan and Vajikaran Chikitsa is definitely are very important. A good Ayurvedic physician can advise you on this. So effects of breathing techniques. Sir is always, Sabnis sir is already a master in yoga, and he knows better than me about the breathing techniques and their effects on blood pressure. But I just give I show a video example which can make you aware that how a simple technique can reduce the increased pressure in our blood. I have seen in all the patients of hypertension, they don't breathe properly, and that disturbed mechanism of breathing leads to excess volume in their peripheries, in their extremities. The core, that is the chest and the stomach, they don't get the proper blood flow. They don't get the proper blood flow in diverted properly to the core organs, and hence the extremities show hypertension, raised high blood pressure. So this is the video which I will play. The patient's blood pressure is 154/90 when I took that reading, and the 150/90 blood pressure, I have seen blood pressure of 200/120 also gets reduced with this technique. So I just ask patient to take 10 deep breathings. We call the yoga calls it Antakumbhak way, and hold it for 2 seconds and exhale deeply, so that the whole extremities blood gets pulled into the core body, that is chest and stomach, chest and abdomen. So pulling our blood volume in our core body leads to reduction in the blood pressure quite immediately, very, very quickly. As it is evident in this video, now you will come to know that this is the second reading I'm taking of the patients. Just see how this 154/90, 154/90 blood pressure goes down in just few seconds to 138/76. So this is quite possible. You can try it at home. You can try on many persons. Those who have 130, 80 BP, they will also get the they will also show the reading reduced in their sphygmomanometer or this digital blood pressure instrument. So it's very easy to reduce blood pressure with this technique. And yoga is certainly useful to reduce the blood pressure by quite quickly. Ayurveda aims for freedom from diseases and medicines. I always, to every patient, I give this idea, even during my first consultation, that it is possible that you can get freedom from your disease as well as from medicines. And let's all believe in the freedom from medicines. Let's all not be only the customers of the pharma industry. Let's believe in freedom from medicines. I wish everybody to believe in freedom from medicines, and which is possible with Ayurveda and scientific Ayurveda understanding. So there are n number of causes of diseases, like food, behavior, habits, sedentary life, stress, medicines, and trauma. These are the class. This is the classification or grouping of all the causative factors of blood pressure, which leads to inflammation, stress, etc. But believe that all these causes are secondary. The only true cause as why hypertension or any other disease happens in our body is this cause makes all the diseases chronic and thus incurable, and delay all the natural way of healing. And the natural ways of healing are denied because we always do erode our divine energy. Our divine energy is always eroded every day. And as I understood, this has a lot of meaning. The erosion of divine energy. Whenever I guide my patients about diet habit restrictions, I tell them, eat everything, but don't eat your own brain and others' brain. I always advise this to my patients. Sab khao magar dimag mat khao. This is the way I always quote finally. And most of my patients, 99% of my patients agree on this, that they have the habit of eroding their own brain and others' brain too. So this is our body. We all know the reach of our I will explain. Our brain resides here. So what do we think that this brain is here in our skull? I ask my patients whether we have our brain here. If I ask someone about this from you, do we have our brain here? Mostly people say no. It's not in our hand. It's not in our feet. It's not in our stomach. But carefully, if we look carefully, the whole body has a detail, has a very, it seems to be a complicated innervation of brain. I believe that brain is the structure, is the real creature in our body. The whatever we have a structure of bones, we have flesh put on that bones, we have all the organs, internal organs, but this is the supreme thing which we have, because we can't move our hand without the orders from brain. Mm-hmm. This is a tree. I draw a diagram of tree in front of my patients on the patient's case paper, and I ask them, what do you think about this tree? Is this the complete picture of tree? Mostly people, they say, yeah, no, this is not complete picture of the tree. This is the complete picture of the tree. These are the roots. The roots of the tree are very important. They have hold the soil and the roots are the seat from which the whole tree gets nutrition and everything. The only sun and water and its existence above the ground level is a show. The truth is below the ground. Ayurveda, we can say it is adho moolam, urdhva shakam. That means the roots are downwards and the branches are upwards. This is a clear picture of this. So actually, this is the actual tree. Whenever a person with some wide vision, he shall understand, he should think that whatever I am looking at the tree, that is a half picture. This is the actual picture of the tree. Same way, the human body also has the half picture of the tree. Ayurveda calls human body as
Urdhva Mula Adho Shakam.
Adho Moolam Urdhva Shakam. That is, we have the roots, Urdhva Shakam, sorry. The Urdhva Shakam, Adho Moolam means our roots are in our brain. And Adho Shakam means the shakhas, the branches are in the body. Whatever we do it happens because of the Chetana and the Chaitanya, the divine power which resides in our brain. Brain is the closest organ to the divine power. And hence, one should not erode the brain. Just a minute, I will switch on my battery, sir, with your permission.
Go ahead.
So whatever voluntary and whatever involuntary mechanisms going on in our body, the way I speak or the way I think, the way I express my thoughts, the way I eat something, the way it goes down in my stomach and everything gets digested and everything, including circulation, including lung activity, including oxygenation, whatever we see, we sense, everything resides with brain. And hence, brain is supported with mind and vayu. These are the two conditions which support brain to perform perfectly and to heal the body. So mind is related with, I call it, in Marathi, we call manka. Manka means the vertebral column. It is manka, it is related with man, and vayu is out of the body. So this is urdhva moolam adho shakham. Our roots are upwards and branches are downwards. The rest of the body is just a collection of some material which gets life from the brain power, from the divine power, and it functions. So we call it the brain, we call our soul as kshetradnya. The soul understands the territory. The soul is the sakshi, it is the witness of everything. And it is vibhu, that is, it supersedes everything. And this soul itself has the power to heal the wounds and cure the diseases. And hence it is the one who can eliminate all the pain and give us ultimate happiness of well-being. So Ayurveda has a Swabhava Param Vad. This is the Swabhava Param Vad means the natural healing method which leads to elimination of diseases. So we have digestive fire, which is a representation of solar energy, sun energy in our stomach in the form of stomach acids. We have a lot of acids in our stomach, including hydrochloric acid, bile fluids, pancreatic juices, intestinal secretions. All these acids, they represent solar energy, sun energy. And this has to be strong. This has to be always has to be flamed up. Exactly when this solar energy or this Agni fire remains strong, whatever we eat, it leads to formation of good force, good energy, and good power in our body. But exactly opposite to that, we also have fire in our brain. And that fire in our brain has to be down. The fire in our stomach, in stomach acids, has to be upwards, has to be very strong, has to be properly working. The fire in our brain has to be down, as it represents moon, it represents Chandra. So these two fire powers with their intensity work for health. And after explaining all these things, I have been able to treat more effectively since last 5 to 10 years. Before that, now I think that what I was practicing 10 years back was very premature, was very immature thing. After understanding this, I have started practicing quite more effectively for my patients. So this Chandra, that is moon, has to be balanced, and then there is formation of Chetana. So wrong food habits, alcohol, etc., they reduce this firepower, and solar energy goes down in our body, and there is excess in Som. So there has to be good firepower. The firepower in our stomach gets diminished, and then there is formation of toxins in our body. Whatever we eat, that leads to formation of toxins, and then hence there is loss of energy, power, vitality, stamina, and aging. So to avoid all these things, we should keep our firepower strong, and so we should reduce the stress. So Ayurveda says that rogaha sarveapi mandegno. Pathology of all diseases is diminished function power of Agni. And scientific Ayurveda says rogaha sarveapi tivra krodhagno. That means the fire power in our brain has to be controlled. दिमाग की आग हमेशा शांत होनी चाहिए. Always keep brain fire cool. And the medicines which I explained, Dhamasa, Gokhru, Brahmi, Ashwagandha, etc., they all work on the root cause of the disease, and hence on the brain. Ayurveda medicines, they are able to cure ailments, various ailments, by being effective on the root cause. Everybody says that Ayurveda works on the root causes of diseases. This is the root cause which I understood. And Ayurveda text also explain all this. They call brain as Adhyatma Lok, as a site where Adhyatma resides. All the powers of healing resides. So this way, with this, we can say that we can get freedom from medicines. I always say, avoid eroding your brain and avoid burning your blood. Love, truth, goodness, all these good qualities, faith, honesty, and everything, charitability and everything, makes us can make us free from medicines. So love, happiness, peace, satisfaction, and wisdom are the important core factors of treating any disease, not only hypertension. With this, I thank you all for the patient listening. And scientific Ayurveda believes in destroying all the toxins and diseases, and avoid developing emergency situations in one's body, mind, and soul, and senses, not in soul. Soul is untouchable. We can't touch it. So for any query, I have my number here, and I have my company formed since 2006, which is working as a research unit itself. So let's believe in scientific Ayurveda, which is future of healthy longevity. Thank you all. Thank you, sir.
That was amazing. So
Outstanding.
wonderful. Thank you very much, doctor. And
Thank you.
this is amazing.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. बहुत
Really
धन्यवाद.
appreciate.